It's the PHNX Coyotes podcast. Don't forget that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Petey, along with Craig S. Morgan, and a very, very welcomed guest, finally back on the show after a couple days hiatus. It's Leah Merrall.
It feels so weird to sit here while you do the intro. Like, that was the most unnatural feeling of my whole life.
Well, don't get used to it because this sucks. We've been begging for you to come home. I actually talked to Saul about getting a plane ticket yesterday to come home, and he said no, but it was bad. So, Leah, what's going on in Toronto?
Well, I'm currently in the media room at Scotiabank Arena. We are about 20 minutes away from getting to talk to everybody involved in the All-Star game, including Clayton Keller, hopefully Rick Tocchet, and celebrity All-Star captains, etc. So keep your eyes locked in on the PHNX Coyotes Twitter and PHNX YouTube. Hopefully there'll be a lot of interview content coming your way a little later, but sorry to report there hasn't been much in the events that's happened yet. So
yeah, but personally there has. Like this has got to be cool for you, just going home and having the All-Star game in a place that you know so well.
It really is. Like, when I get off the plane here, it feels like home to me. It's really comfortable. I know my way around the city. I'm staying with friends. I've gotten to see some old family friends here and there. I know the public transit like the back of my hand. So it's been really cool. And it's really cool that this event is in Toronto, because I feel like Toronto it's just a hockey city. And this event feels made for Toronto.
One of the things in our chat, Leah, and I don't know if you can see our chat, but CWP, the OG Charles, he wants to know, did you get the opportunity to get your picture taken with the Cheeto glove yet?
So I went on a wild chase for the Cheeto glove, and I said that it had moved. I wrote that in the Die Hard blog that I am going to write every day. Oh no, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
You went away for a sec. And it said they relocated it to the Fan Fest. So I tried to get into the Fan Fest today, but I don't know. It was very stressful to get in. So I ended up coming here because I didn't want to be late. So I might have to try again tomorrow.
But work trumps fun. Well, actually, no, it doesn't, because we were all at the draft and it didn't trump it there. So one of the things you told us yesterday, and it was in the blog too, that you had some very famous people on your flights. And one of them was the parents of Toronto Maple Leaf, Austin Matthews. They were on your flight. And Craig and I were wondering if you had the opportunity to try to woo them on how fantastic it would be for Austin to play with his hometown team.
I didn't. We don't tamper here at PHNX Sports. So.
Yeah.
My question is, Leah, did you wear the Qantas pajamas on the flight back to Toronto?
No, Craig, but I am using one of the many free things they gave us on the flight by Qantas. As you can see, they gave us a little kit with some socks and a face mask and some hand moisturizer. But I'm using it on this trip, and I have it with me here.
That's great. We brought one back for Petey, didn't we? Oh wait, no, we didn't.
Oh.
Never.
No, you didn't. Yeah. Look, Leah, can you give us a little idea now? Because this is important. This is the draft day today. And this is where the teams are getting picked today at the All-Star game. Do you have any sense, because we know how important this is for all Coyote fans to know, do you have any sense of where Clayton Keller is going to go in this draft?
I don't have a sense based on talking to anyone, but I have a sense in my soul. Clayton Keller and Austin Matthews are friends. I'm feeling like he's going to get drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs forward, Austin Matthews.
I did see a mock draft, and I'm sure Craig sat and watched this on the NHL Network earlier today. They did a mock draft. Yeah, I'm sure Craig didn't tune in. And you nailed it, Leah. They have Clayton Keller going to Austin Matthews' team in the 4th round. They have him picking William Nylander first, but they have the 4th round, Clayton Keller joining Matthews. But what we're talking about the captains. This, Craig, and I know Craig really wanted to chime in on this because he loves the All-Star game, and this is why Leah is going to the draft today, so she can see. You can see all the captains. So there are captains. It's Matthews, McDavid, McKinnon, and the Hughes brothers are the captains for each of their respective teams, and they all have celebrity captains: Justin Bieber, Will Arnett, the world famous Tate McRae,
if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Tate McRae, too good to do podcast. Tate McRae. Who are you most looking forward to seeing tonight of the celebrity captains? That's a good response.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, we got you
Okay.
now.
All right.
No.
It's definitely okay. It's definitely Justin Bieber. He's a superstar. I've actually met Michael Bublé before.
What?
Subtle flex.
Nice.
And Tate McRae, that's like one below my generation. So I'm not like sorry to Pete and DJ, who I know are huge Tate McRae fans. I don't really know her that well. And then Will Arnett, I think, is really cool. But if I have to look at the four, I'm choosing Bieber #1.
And then after this wraps up tonight, what are you expecting to accomplish there in the next 48 hours while this event is going on?
Well, like for the people or for myself?
How about, I don't care.
No, let's just say it, Petey. It's for us.
Yeah,
what are you
for us.
accomplishing for us, Leah?
What are you
Because
doing
that's
for
all we
us,
care
Leah?
about.
Did we get all-star gifts yet? Did Craig and I get all-star gifts? Is that a thing?
No, I need to visit the gift shop still. I'm
They
going to
get
get you
jerseys.
each a jersey because I know how much you love them.
And I'm just going to say, Pete and DJ and Sean DePaz, whenever they go anywhere, they all seem to get jerseys. So I just thought that would be appropriate. Although I'm sure they're not in the PHNX budget. So,
you know what I'm hoping for, Leah?
Oh no!
A one-on-one with Gary Bettman. You're going to sit down with Gary Bettman and get everything that we need to know about the arena and the future of the Coyotes in Arizona, right? You'll take care of that on Friday, right? Uh-oh.
Yes, Craig. We'll do that. I'll do that for sure. We can hear her. You know what happened? She took a phone call. And one of the things you got to do when you're on your phone on the streamer is you cannot take phone calls because that's what happens. And there goes Leah Merrall. The good news is Leah's doing well. She's found her way to the bowels of is it Scotiabank? Is that what it is?
Yep. That is what it is now. For now.
Can we just here's a subtle comment, an aside, Craig. Can we go back to the names of all the arenas and then they could be sponsored by something? Can this just be Maple Leaf Garden sponsored by Scotiabank?
Well, some of them, the problem is with some of them, they don't even have an original name. Like when they built the new place in Chicago, it's United Center. And that's all it is. It's a sponsor's name on the building. Like what else? I guess. Yeah, I hate it too. Like I'm never going to call Sun Devil Stadium anything but Sun Devil Stadium. I don't really care.
I don't care who sponsors
about it.
I'm agreeing. So we're gonna call this the Toronto Maple Leafs Arena.
Sure.
They have Scotiabank. They're not paying ours. Max hasn't got them as a sponsor yet. So Leah, I know you want to get to work here, so we're going to ask you your last question, and we did get you cut off there. What are you trying to accomplish for the people here at PHNX, the diehards, Craig and I? What are you trying to accomplish here in the next 48 hours at the All-Star game?
So we're going to chat with Clayton Keller, obviously. I'm going to try and chat with Rick Tocchet as well, and we'll see. So those videos will be coming on our Twitter account and our YouTube. I'll also have shorts to recap every single day. And if you're a diehard, I'm blogging every single day by day, what I've been up to, who I talked to, what I saw and did. So you have to be a diehard to read that as well. But just keep your eyes on the PHNX_Coyotes Twitter and the PHNX Sports YouTube channel.
Anything else from you, Craig, for Leah Merrall while she's joining us?
And listen, I know everybody's anticipating Gary Bettman's news conference on Friday. We'll see if he says a lot in that sort of setting. Those settings don't tend to produce, the type of in-depth news, but maybe he'll be, pressed or feel like he needs to say something more definitive about the Coyotes' fate at that news conference. The last thing that I want to ask you, Leah, after the big trade that went down in the NHL yesterday, is this Canada's year? The Vancouver Canucks are all in. The Edmonton Oilers on a ridiculous heater right now. Winnipeg, Petey thinks they might be the most complete team in the NHL. And, of course, they're the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is this the year that Canada finally breaks the Stanley Cup drought?
No.
Oh, that was definitive.
Listen, it's been the last time a Canadian team won the Cup was before I was born. So I'm just going to doubt it until they prove me wrong. And I'd be happy if they did. I want to see a Canadian team have success in the postseason, but I'm not getting my hopes anywhere.
Well, there you have it. Live from Toronto, Leah Merrall. And I do hope you please do not scratch out Elliot Friedman's eyes. We heard rumors on the internet.
I have to go apologize to him. If you DM'd him that I wanted to scratch his eyes out, I need to have a word with you because I don't know where that came from. So now I need to go find him and say, I'm not scratching your eyes out, but nice to meet you.
So here's what I want you to do.
I'm going
And
to
I know
text actually. I'm going to text Elliot and tell him that you evaded the metal detectors somehow today. So,
well, I think what the people here at PHNX want to see, and really honestly, the people coast to coast across Canada, is they want to see a picture with you and Elliot Friedman showing that everything is all good and you've made peace and there's truce
there
in
we
the world.
go.
So I am expecting to see that on the Leah Merrall Twitter page within the next few hours. So there's no pressure, Leah, but you
We'll
need
see.
a selfie with Elliot Friedman saying all is well.
His security team might have it out for me. Who knows?
Yeah, they've got their picture. There she is. Here she's coming. And the eagle has landed.
Oh,
okay, Leah, thanks again for joining us.
Right.
Be safe there. Get us all kinds of content, and we'll be following you on the Die Hard blog and on your Twitter page. So
please come home, Leah. Please come home.
Please come home.
You guys got it. Thanks for holding it down while I'm gone.
No, we don't. But thanks for saying that.
It's all
right.
Just see you later, Leah.
See you, Leah.
Bye, guys.
Well, Craig, are we jealous about this? Are we jealous that she look at? You know what? Danielle and I were both producing the show. That's what happened. We were fighting over it. Leah was coming.
Get out of there, Petey. Get out of there.
It's my bad. I'm sorry. I apologize. Everything good, Craig? With Leah's coverage at the All-Star game. Are we excited to see what happens, or we don't really care?
Yeah, she's already blogged. She already put out a blog post. I'm sure she'll be doing that a couple more times while she's there. Like she said, don't forget about the Die Hard blog. You know, I know we launched it and then it went quiet for a little while because we've had a lot going on at PHNX lately, including, you know, being forced out of our office for a week by
that was
electrical issues, we'll call them. But yeah, the blog is going to be coming up. People are going to be contributing to that again, and Leah's getting it all started. So looking forward to what she has to produce for us, and really, again, looking forward to that news conference from Gary Bettman on Friday.
Well, and while we're talking about it, let's talk about the BetMGM Sportsbook app. Sports are more fun when you have skin in the game, and BetMGM is the official sportsbook of PHNX. The big game is almost here, and it is perfect time to download the BetMGM Sportsbook app. I place several bets on the big game. This is true. Several bets on the big game. And what I do, Craig, I write each bet on a note card and I put them down on the ottoman in front of me on the couch. True. 100% true story. I don't bet on the team winning or losing because what fun is that? I bet on yards, coin toss, color of the gate, all that crap. Bet on all of it. And I little weenie bets, and I put those all over. And when one hits, you know the little bell that I have? I ring that bell. This is, again, true. It's just me and my wife. I ring the bell, and I put the card up on the fridge. And when I don't win the bet, I tear it up and throw it in the garbage to get the bad karma out of the way. But it makes the game fun regardless of who I am rooting for. And you can do that too. Just sign up for the BetMGM. Use bonus code PHNX. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook mobile application for at least $5. And you will receive $158 instantly in additional winnings regardless of your wager's outcome. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to the disclaimer.
Problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms. This promotional offer is not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico.
And you know what? I know you probably can't get tickets to the Super Bowl, but there's all kinds of events here in Arizona that you can. You can go to the Suns, you can go to college basketball, and you can go to the Waste Management Open. All of those tickets are available on Game Time. Yeah, and you know what else is coming? And here's Craig's. The Bird's Nest concerts are coming, and you can get those tickets on there. Justin Timberlake is coming to the Footprint Center in May. I'm sure you're going to that. Tate McRae, that we just talked about already, is coming in July. So you can jump onto the Game Time Sportsbook Game Time ticket app and get your Tate McRae tickets. And I know the one that Craig has already jumped on tickets all over is Bad Bunny is coming to the Footprint Center in February. So he's got those. Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Snag the tickets without the stress from Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, use the code word PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code PHNX, get $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Well, we've talked about Leah at the All-Star game, and I know how much Craig and I we're dialed in. But
yeah, that's not even held yet, Petey, and we're already looking past it because, well, truth be told, Petey and I don't care at all about the NHL All-Star game. So we're going to talk about something else. We're going to look forward because you know what happens on Sunday, Petey? The Coyotes return to the ice. Clayton Keller won't, of course. He'll get a little extra time off. We'll see how much he takes. But the Coyotes return to the ice for practice on Sunday afternoon. We'll be there. I'll be there at least. So
it's already?
Oh, yeah, it's crazy, right? Yeah.
No, I won't be there because I'll be going downtown to the Mullet again. So that's you got to do that one.
They can take a month off if they want. I'm cool with that. But it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that's coming in the next CBA. So
No.
let's talk about storylines for the Coyotes. The biggest storylines after the All-Star break. I know we've broken these down into a couple segments, but I'll start with the first one here because people have been asking it over and over and over again. And I've reported the date of Barrett Hayton's return, but people get a little nervous. Has there been a setback? Is there anything changing? Thus far, no, I've not heard anything changing in Barrett Hayton's return. He is due back after the All-Star break. I don't know if he's going to practice Sunday, but, you know, the date that I had heard that he was ready to return was today, February 1st. So I'm assuming at this point that we're going to see Barrett Hayton in practice and back on the ice. And, you know, we'll see if they throw him right back between Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz immediately, or if they work him in some other way. But this is good news because I think this is a guy whose value was underappreciated until he went out of the lineup.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because I hate to be a pessimist, but that's kind of on brand for me. I would, if he comes into practice and full practice on Sunday as expected, I would not anticipate to see him in that game on Thursday. Again, I think it's going to take him a while. I think your timing, you're playing by yourself, you're skating every day, but just getting back, he's been out a very long time. I mean, this is going to take him, it's going to take him a minute to get back into game shape, get his timing back. And especially if he wants to play with Schmaltz and Keller, where their timing and their ability to move the puck up the ice quickly is so imperative, that's going to take him a minute. So I'm not sure, Craig, to your point, does he jump right between them?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, on one hand, get him up to speed right away, but on the other, it's like that's a lot of pressure to put him into and have him play those kind of minutes when he hasn't played for so long. So maybe he gets spelled in at that point, but I think we'll temper our expectations here on PHNX until Craig's got an opportunity to see him in practice. But he is important. The second half, if they even want to stay around the playoffs at all, they need to see Barrett Hayton back in the lineup.
And they will have 4 practice. At least they're scheduled to have 4 practices this week. I imagine they'll take advantage of them after this break. So there's going to be a lot of time for him to. Obviously,
Sure.
It's not a game situation. You're right. It's not a game situation. So you can't mimic that no matter how hard you try in practice. So maybe they work him in slowly. But the good news is he's supposed to be back on the ice. As far as some of the other players, we haven't received an update on Matt Dumba yet. We'll obviously get one on Sunday. So we'll get a better sense of where he is. Vladislav Kolyachonok, obviously that one's been up in the air because of the nature of the injury. They've been uncertain of how it's going to heal. We know Troy Stetcher's going to be out for a little while longer. So I think that updates it. I think I've covered everybody, Petey, if I haven't forgotten someone.
Well, the interesting thing for me is the Kolyachonok one. When it first occurred, we're like, he was there as a call up, and it's not one of the core guys. And it's, you know, we want to see him healthy. Stay that we don't want him to be hurt, but that wasn't a big piece to this team. But now, when you got Stetcher and Dumba both out of the lineup, you're going, oh, gosh, what if they lose one more? Then they need some defensemen. Like, so I think the Kolyachonok injury now becomes important, and I think you need that defensive depth. And when you're losing guys in the top of your lineup, you've got to have a guy like him be able to jump in, and he brings a physical element that they need, and he's also can keep up with his foot speed. So I the one that didn't concern me before, now I'd like to see him jump in the lineup sooner than possible. So I think if this team's going to stay even in the playoff conversation, they're going to have to get healthy as soon as possible.
Yep. I know another one that people will be looking at quite a bit because we saw signs of it, especially, I mean, Dylan Guenther, for the most part, looked very good when he came up from Tucson, and thus far has not given them a reason to send him back. We'll talk about Tucson's plans a little later in the show, but watching these two guys play together, listen, there are hiccups, and you've pointed out some of these. I know people get excited about the offense, and they maybe miss some of the other elements of the game, including, you know, those guys being stuck on the ice, right, for that key goal the other night. But you're going to live through some of those mistakes with young players. I think it was at least encouraging to see Logan Cooley making significant strides, playing with that sort of, as Chris Peters told us long ago, that FU attitude where he's a little bit grittier. He's in your face. He's playing with speed, playing with pace, and attacking. I like to see that Logan Cooley. Hopefully we see more of that, and we see him, you know, basically justify this decision to keep him in the NHL the entire season rather than giving some development time down in Tucson.
Yeah, I think those two of the guys, you see what the addition of Guenther that we both expected to be here for just 2 games or 3 games while they're waiting for Zucker on suspension. And he's earned his way onto this roster. He's got 7 points in 11 games, and in those 11 games, Cooley also has 7 points. Cooley went from 4 goals to 7 goals. With Guenther in the lineup. So I think that the chemistry is there between those two, and I don't know right now. It doesn't surprise me if Guenther goes back down at any point, especially when Hayton comes back into the lineup. They're going to have to make some lineup decisions when Hayton is ready to jump in the lineup. But until then, keep these two together. And even if they hurt you a little bit defensively, even if that's a problem, I think that's one of those tandem and those pairs that can live with this franchise for years. And so let's see if they can build some of that chemistry. We've been around coaches, Craig. They always talk about that tandem or that pair that you can, slide another guy in on their line. And I see these two being potentially a pair that can last on this franchise for a long time. Cooley, again, it's every once in a while we see those glimpses of, hey, he's getting better, he's getting better, he's getting better. And Guenther, the one thing I'll say about Guenther and his time here is those points are 5-on-5, and they're not dominating on power play like he did a season ago where everything was on the power play. He's been able to get 5-on-5 points, and I think that that's a very important part of his progression. We talked about his speed and his pace, and he's worked on all those things. So I think those two young players, I think that this is a big step in this rebuild and getting those players to continue to develop and play well. And I think that's what fans should be looking for the second half, even if the playoff race starts to fade away from the Coyotes. I still think you can look at these young players and see how they're progressing.
Dive into that a little bit with Cooley in particular, Petey. Like what are the nuts and bolts of what you need to see from Logan Cooley over not quite the second half? We're a little past the first half of the season, but what do you need to see to say, yeah, he's getting it. He's progressing even more than what we saw right at the break?
Well, one of the things you can do once and if they're staying in a playoff race, I don't know if his role changes. If they're staying around, if they're 5 points out and they're 4 points out, 3 points out, and they're in that 8, Cooley's going to have to not sit, and I don't mean sit, but Keller and Schmaltz are going to get the majority of the offensive zone draws. They're going to get the big ice time, but if that starts to fade out and they're starting to fade out, look for Cooley to get more of that ice time. Look for Cooley to get more offensive zone opportunities. Look for him to be put in situations that maybe make him a little bit uncomfortable. And let's see if he can develop from that. The other thing is you saw him playing sparingly at the wing. I would see, again, if they start to slip out of that playoff spot, I would see Cooley playing middle of the ice for the remainder of the year. I think this is, you've got a baptism by fire. You've got to learn those assignments. But then you, as a coaching staff and a management staff, maybe take some of the pressure off of his offense and go, okay, we're going to focus tonight. And this is one thing that coaches I've seen do. You have a goal for tonight. Not the rest of the year, tonight. We're going to break this down for tonight. You know what, Coles? We're going to go out there. You're not going to get scored on tonight. Let's focus on your defending. Let's be really good in the defensive zone. Let's be really good in the down low battles. Let's win those battles. Let's keep the opponent in front of you, and let's focus on your defense. And then the offense will take care of itself. So for me, as a coach, I'd be looking at Cooley increasing his ice time, staying in the middle of the ice, and really starting to learn how to play 200-foot and defend. Because one of the things you saw at the University of Minnesota is when he'd get that little bit of an edge, the FU edge, he kind of lost some of the fundamentals of system play and let his skills take over. Can't do that in the NHL. So he's going to have to learn those fundamentals. I think he can still develop even if this team's not in a playoff spot.
All right, let's talk about a key issue that leads into another key issue, the playoff gap. We knew that the other teams around the Coyotes in the wild card race were going to play games after the Coyotes had finished before the All-Star break. They did some winning. Like the LA Kings now are in the number 1 wild card spot with 56 points. That's 7 points clear of the Coyotes. That's a pretty significant gap at this point. St. Louis is the next team at 54. Nashville's sitting at 54. Seattle's right behind them. And then you have the Arizona Coyotes. So now not only are they 5 points back of the second wild card, there's a few teams they have to leapfrog. Again, sorry, I keep asking you for the coach's perspective, but you've sat in on so many rooms. Like when you're in that situation, it's not just, oh, we're 5 points back. There's all these teams in between you and your goal. So what's the attitude? What's the realistic attitude of a coaching staff and a team right now looking up at that deficit and facing a really tough February schedule, which the Coyotes still have?
This is the hardest part, I think, for the Coyotes, and I think it's their schedule. I think when you look at those 5 teams that are fighting for that last spot, I mean, the Coyotes have the most difficult schedule of those 5 teams. But from the coaching perspective, your job is to make this team win, and I think you have to make this. And I know we've talked to Andre Tourigny about this, and he does not agree with me on this. So we'll state that right away. if you say to this team, you've got 34 games left and you need to accomplish this, I think that's too big of a task. I think that's too big of a mountain to climb. I think it looks too massive that you've got to make up 5 points in 34 games. I like okay, we're going to break this down. And I know we've done it with Tockett. We did it with Tippett. It was 5 games. Tip started with 10, but 5 games seemed to work because you go, okay, it's 5 games. And you take those 5 games as a playoff series. You got it's best 3 out of 5. And you condition yourself to put your mentality in. This is a playoff series. And that's how we approached it in the coaches' room, even this far away. It's a playoff series. This team needs to win 3 out of 5. We're going to prepare. We're going to eat, sleep, and train like this is a 5-game playoff series. And you have to win 3 of these games. If this team can win 3 out of 5 and maybe sneak in 4-1 in there, then they're going to be around it. You even look at the LA Kings. I know LA Kings are way ahead of them. LA Kings are still struggling. And I think that's a team that's still a little bit disarray. Maybe there's two wild card spots there. But if it is just down to 1, it's 5 teams for 1. And you have to be able to focus on a smaller task. You have to be able to say, we can accomplish this. We win 3 out of 5. And then if I'm a player, I'm looking at the schedule. Okay, we got Vegas. We got this team. And now, okay, yeah, that's doable. We can win 3 out of this 5. And then what if you beat Vegas? Now you've got that confidence. You go, okay, we can win this series. And what happens, and this happened with one of the Rick Tocchet teams, is you start playing that kind of mentality in this point of the season. And when you get to the close, when you're starting to get ready to the playoffs, we've been playing playoff hockey for 30 games. Like, we're there already. Mentality, we're there. We're playing playoff hockey. And I think that does give them advantage. I don't want to count this team out yet, but it is a massive task based on this schedule. So let's see how they come out of the gate. Let's see if they get healthy. Let's see how Ingram is in the net, and we'll say maybe for now. I think they need to win 3 of the first 5 coming out of the break.
I want to tell a story here because it is interesting, the different approaches that coaches take. I asked, you were there, I asked Andre if he divides the season into segments because Rick Tocchet did it. And as you mentioned, Dave Tippett did. He said he doesn't do that. He wants people focused on the immediate task in front of them. That game that night, that's all he thinks about. And that's fine. Like, people have different approaches. I want to tell a story because Dave Tippett was in the PHNX studios for an upcoming show that we're going to start rolling out promos for, and it's going to debut next Wednesday. Really excited about it. But I sat down with Tip for a while, and he told the story of that incredible February unbeaten run back in 2012. As that month was starting, he said he had a meeting with GM Don Maloney, and they're looking at their situation where they're just, hovering around it, maybe in the playoff picture, but they've got a tough schedule. And they're both saying, are we buyers? Are we sellers? What do we do? So they held the meeting with the players. They said, here's the schedule. Here's what we need to do this entire month. Here's the point total that we need in order for us to be a buyer and to be thinking like a playoff team instead of a team that's going to be unloading assets. Well, the players respond and go unbeaten. Nobody's going to foresee that. You can't say that, the meeting was the reason for that, obviously. The players bought in. Mike Smith was out of his mind in net. All of that played into it. But it's interesting, the different approaches, because these are very similar situations right now. And you look how it played out for the Coyotes way back then in 2012.
And it's interesting, that team, when you look at that February, that really saved the season. If not for that, this team doesn't make the playoffs at all. And the miraculous, the season doesn't end like that for 2012. And I know this franchise is not a Stanley Cup, and we can talk about that. But that's a hell of a playoff run for a team that at that point had no chance, that was just out of it. And they set a franchise record and wins in a month of February with no losses. So you're right, Craig. I think that it's going to be important that they have to have an outstanding start, not just in those segments, but in the game itself. Their first periods have been horrific. They've had bad starts in the first 10 minutes, the first period. They can't play from behind. They're not good enough to chase some of these better teams like Vegas, like Colorado. They need to at least stay tied or even. So they're going to need a good start of the game and a good start to the season. But one of the things they better not do is take OGs. OGs has launched 2 new products made with live rosin and RSO, the OGs Naturals and the Big OGs. The OGs Naturals are vegan gummies. Meanwhile, the Big OGs gummy is a mega version of Peg's Raspberry Orange. It's perforated into 10 slices, each 10 milligrams of THC for a total of 100 milligrams of THC. OGs are locally made. And check out the creams, the Sunny Sativa, the Mellow Indica, and the Mini Cream 3 milligram per piece. To learn more about OG's gummies and where you can find them, head over to ogsbrands.com. And I guarantee it, they might not be part of their advertising slogan, but you might get a little hungry. So you plan ahead and you stop through and get yourself some burros. Go where people put the fun in their meal fiestas with some burros. Some burros is family owned and operated and was voted Arizona's most loved Mexican restaurant. Burros, chimichangas, tacos, enchiladas, tamales, Mexican pizza, all of your Mexican food favorites. And don't forget the taquitos and mini chimneys, because I won't. Come check out their newest locations in Goodyear, Peoria, and the I-17 and Joe Max, or visit someburros.com to find one near you. Let Some Burros cater your next meal, big or small. Order online or find one near you visiting someburros.com. Craig, let's get back to hockey in the All-Star game. Yes,
yeah,
sir?
we just got an update from Toronto, Petey.
And what's that?
From Leah. Just killed. Oh, no, not just killed Elliot. Just met Elliot. Just met Elliot. That's what
it was breaking news across Canada. Oh my God. Leah Merrall is in custody.
Yeah. So that last segment, when we were talking about the playoff chase and what they need to do to stay in it. Well, the other looming deadline, of course, comes 1 month after they resume play, and that's the NHL trade deadline on March 8th. If they fall out of it, we all remember that quote from Bill Armstrong: management's got to do what management's got to do. So that's the part that gets really interesting for me. We've talked about maybe the trade value of some of these players and who might be available. It's hard to read this situation. Like I wouldn't say that either Matt Dumba or Jason Zucker has probably lived up to expectations for hopes at this point in the season. So I'm not sure what their trade value is. I'm not sure it's what the Coyotes hoped if they got to the situation where they had to flip them. On the flip side of that, there may be some other players, depending on what the Coyotes are thinking about them, depending on whether other teams want to take on an extra year of terms. Sometimes teams do. They like that cost certainty of planning it in. So then you start looking at, okay, are they willing to move one of their goaltenders, namely Karel Vejmelka? Are they willing to move an Alex Kerfoot? Are they willing to move Nick Bjugstad yet again to try and acquire more assets? It gets really interesting because these guys bring a lot of value in the room, I think. So you have to weigh that against how much value are we actually getting out on the open market.
Well, this is what makes this trade deadline so interesting, because over the last 2 seasons, there is no doubt Bill Armstrong was trying to sell any asset he could to acquire draft assets and future assets for this team. That's not the case this year, because you can see this team teetering around the playoff line right now. You don't want to blow up the future of players. And the two you mentioned, Kerfoot's a great example. Kerfoot and Bjugstad are great examples of, man, they're not going to be here when this team's ready to win a Stanley Cup and compete for a Stanley Cup and be a perennial playoff team. They're not. They're too old, and I don't think those players will be part of that once they get through this. But they're important now. They're important in developing players playing the right way, and they're developing players as good pros. I think those two players help this team win right now. So I think there's that mix of winning now with the future. And I'd hate to see those two guys go. I get it if they do. Again, that's where the return is. When you talk about Dumba and Zucker, I don't think the return is what they were expected when those players came in. I don't know, unless they blow the doors off in the next 5 weeks. I don't know if they're getting the return back that's worth the trouble, but you're going to have to, because you're not going to probably re-sign those players. But then the ones that have the most value, Craig, are the ones you don't want to get rid of. The players that are playing their best. Like, would somebody pick up a Sean Durzi from this team?
Well, I don't.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, they would. I don't see the Coyotes
trading. Right, but those are the players they're not trading.
Yeah.
Could Connor Ingram? Yes.
Yeah, but
don't.
Why would you trade him? That makes no sense. Lawson Krause. People keep talking about Lawson Krause. I don't see the Coyotes trading Lawson Krause. We have talked about Nick Schmaltz. If Nick Schmaltz can get on a heater after the All-Star break, I'm very interested to see how they approach that one. He's another player. Honestly, when I look down the road, is Nick Schmaltz a key contributor to a playoff team for the Coyotes? I'm not sure he is. So, you can make the argument you maybe should have traded him last season when his value was maximized. He hasn't had the kind of year you would hope this season, but he's still a guy with really high-end skill. If you put him in the right situations, he can be a very productive player for you, because he, like I said, he's incredibly skilled, and there are very few players who generate speed through the neutral zone with the puck the way that Nick Schmaltz does.
Yeah, I agree with that. it's interesting because Nick Schmaltz has never reached his potential, as far as I'm concerned, here in Arizona. I think there have been glimpses of it. I think he's an outstanding hockey player. He can help a playoff team. He can. He can provide that secondary offense. He can get to that. He can provide additional scoring. And there are teams that are going to need it. And you saw what happened in New York. They got Filipino, who's all ready to come back, and he gets hurt again. He's out for the rest of the year. There's teams that are going to need scoring, and there's teams that want to win right now that need to have some high-end offensive players. That one's interesting to me, Greg. If you hadn't brought that up, I don't know if I would have thought of Nick Schmaltz, but that one's interesting. I don't know. Zucker and Dumba, for sure, they're going to try to move those 2 contracts just if they can. And then Schmaltz is interesting because he does have another year left, but he is one that I don't know with his history of injuries. The only thing would be if they find a way to appease Clayton Keller. Like if you're just saying, hey, Clayton, he's going to go, but you're going to get to play with X, Y, and Z, or here's what we're thinking, then maybe you might be able to appease him.
All right, let's go down the I-10 for a moment, shall we?
Man, watch the traffic this time of day. God damn it.
Because the Tucson Roadrunners are still by points percentage in first place in the Pacific Division. They're a point behind Coachella Valley, but they have a game in hand, so maybe they can hop over them in points as well. But Tucson's been an incredible story all season. I'm excited. First of all, we're planning on going down there later this month to do a show. But beyond that, PD, I want to go down and cover playoff hockey in the AHL because, we don't get to cover playoff hockey very often up here in the Valley. So I would like to see the Tucson Roadrunners play, and I'm really curious what that playoff roster will look like because I wonder how many current Coyotes could be competing in the AHL playoffs.
Yeah, it's one of the things we need to find out from GM Bill Armstrong is what are all the rules on that? Who can go? Maybe we talked to David Ludwig too, because I know there's players like Dylan Guenther obviously can go back down. He's been part of that roster. Michael Kessering has played games there. So there are several Coyotes players that would be available to go play.
Yeah, there's just a cutoff date. You have to have them on the AHL roster, even though it's like a paper move, they can still be here. So yeah, but you mentioned those 2 guys. I would fully expect both of them to be. If Koliachonek's healthy, I would expect him to go down.
Same.
Like I wonder about a player like I get the sense that he's never going down to the AHL. I really think that was part of the agreement with him coming here, but wouldn't Logan Cooley benefit by playing in some playoff hockey down in the AHL? Look, I know he hasn't played with many of the players. You could send him down and have him play with Dylan Guenther again if you wanted. But that experience is so valuable. And if your team is out of it at the end of the season, why not? Why not?
Yeah, that one's interesting to me too, because he's a 19-year-old kid. And I would like to see it. And here's why. Because we've said this about teams that have won in the American League and then gone on and kept that core of players that learned together, grew together, developed together, and helped win in the National Hockey League. I think Logan Cooley could benefit playing at that pace. It's a little bit. You might get to see the Logan Cooley that we were hoping to see here in the NHL. You might get to see him in the AHL. And I think you're right. I think it works best if you put him with Dylan Guenther. Put Dylan Guenther and Logan Cooley on a line down in the AHL in Tucson and say, giddy up. And the downside of that is now, one, what does that do to Logan Cooley mentally? And 2, what does it do to all the guys in Tucson that have really, pushed this team along all year and go, okay, now we're here to the playoffs and you're going to sit up in the stands and watch Logan Cooley. I don't know.
Like, because I would look at that like as a player and be like, oh my God, that's so cool that we're getting this boost for the playoffs.
Yeah, the 18 that are playing would say that. The 18 that are playing would say that. The 2 that are sitting out will be like F you. But that's how it's been. I mean, I think from the team perspective, yes, I want to see the team in the playoffs. Last year they had a quick playoff. It was in and out, and they were on the road. We haven't been to a playoff game down there since they played the Dallas Texans down there, and that was fun. Watching playoff hockey, meaningful hockey in that time of the year. And this team's a playoff team. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's just a matter of how far they can go. You talked about to Matt Vialta and saw what he's done to their goaltending. You've seen what Josh Doan has done offensively down there. And he's having an absolute amazing breakout rookie season down there in the American League. Dylan Guenther, I think, will absolutely end up back there. Michael Kesselring, who I think has shown his offensive side here, needs to really show his grit and defense down in the American League through a playoff fight where you're going to have to be a little tougher and grittier around the blue paint. I think that will absolutely help him. And I don't know if that's a demotion. It's, Michael, you've done great here. We love your development. Go down there and blow this thing up. Like be the tough guy we know you can be. So I think that's going to be beneficial. And I think it only helps this franchise in the long run. The more guys that can participate in those meaningful games at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's fun. That's the other side of it for Logan Cooley. It's fun to play playoff hockey, and it's not like the travel. I guess there are a couple cities now in the Pacific with Calgary and Abbotsford that are a little bit of a schlep, but most of these cities are really close too. So the travel is not bad until you get into the deeper rounds. More than anything, it's playoff hockey. You get to play playoff hockey. Who doesn't want to play playoff hockey? So that's where I stand on it anyway.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And do we really have to talk about this last topic?
Well, I mean, it is one of the major storylines that we expect to have. I can't even say like conclusive news, because who the hell knows with this franchise? Conclusive news really on this story that we've been waiting for conclusive news for 20 plus years.
20 plus.
The arena and the fate of hockey, NHL hockey anyway, in Arizona, really the fate of hockey in Arizona, because the Coyotes matter to the rest of the levels of hockey in Arizona. We're going to find out something again. And I hope he says it at that news conference so that everybody can hear it in the back row. The All-Star game, the All-Star break is not a deadline. We've been saying it on this show so many times. We've updated it. Initially, yes, the All-Star break was the deadline, but we updated that, and we said it so many times. Again, I joke with you guys that we can have a mashup of all the times we've said it on the show. Quarter one. That is the deadline we've heard. Can deadlines change? They absolutely can change. A lot of factors go into creating deadlines. So yes, they can change, but we're not at D-Day yet. We're not there yet. I hope Gary addresses this with some substance to let people know what's happening here on the ground. But for better or for worse, an answer is coming soon on this.
Yeah, and I think I waver back and forth on, well, I'm overly optimistic and this is going to be fine, and they were never going to let a team leave, and Gary Bettman's put his neck out on this franchise several times, and it's going to stay. And I've swing there, and then this is the first time in a long time that I've started to become concerned, and it's just because it's taking so long and it's so quiet, and the steps that need to be taken to secure the land that they're talking about securing. And again, that's all rumored. Maybe this is going to pop up and on Monday they go, hey, we're building in Mesa. And that could be, it honestly could be. But the land that they're speculating is state land, and there's so many hoops to get through to get that to happen. So that's where my concern is. If that was the land that they're actually talking about, I would like to see that process further down the road than it actually is.
Sure. But remember, like, I don't believe plan B is relocation.
Yeah, I agree with that still.
I believe relocation, and Gary has said this himself, relocation is the absolute last resort. If the Morellos can't secure something, I still think they're going to pursue local buyers before they pursue relocation. I still think Salt Lake City is, in fact, an expansion market. But if you can't, if you can't secure it and it's not like it's simple to say, hey, Matt Ishbia buy the Coyotes, or some other local buyer buy the Coyotes. It's not that simple. There are a lot of issues and roadblocks in the way of that happening. Keep that all in mind. But I do think that the league, should the Morellos not be able to come up with a solution, and I'm not even saying that can't happen yet, but if they can't find a solution that satisfies the league and satisfies that timeline, I do still think that they will pursue every avenue for a local buyer to keep the team in the market before they go to the nuclear plan of relocating this team to another city.
Yeah, and we don't want to say, and Craig made a really good point there, that we're not saying the Morellos can't get this thing done. There's still time to get a deal done here, and we've talked about the deadlines at the top, but there's time. But that time is dwindling, and it's fading, and the clock is ticking. And if there isn't significant movement on this in the next, or days and weeks, we're not talking 6 months to a year. Like, this is imminent. Like, things are happening, better be happening behind the scenes very quickly, because if they're not, then yeah, I still think the opportunity to get a different buyer to keep this team in a big TV market, the big fan base market. I do think that the NHL clearly wants a team here, and they will do everything they can to put it here. But if that starts to fade, they're going to have no choice but to move the team. And that's what ended up happening in Atlanta. When you looked at the Thrasher situation, there was no buyer. There was just nobody to buy the team. There was no ownership group. There was no rumored ownership group. There's nobody to buy the team and keep them there. So they had no choice but to move. Yeah. If the rumors and the rumor mill are true, then maybe there is still hope that there's an ownership group here. But keep in mind, then, for this not to get messy and sticky and really ugly, Morello's going to have to want to sell to that group. And that's where this could get interesting. We're a long way from this thing being over. but it's definitely not going to be over during the All-Star break.
Yep.
And that's it. And you know what? You know where you can find out everything? You can find it out at PHNX, and it's so beneficial. Now's the time to become a diehard, because this is where you get everything. You get a free shirt or hat every year on your anniversary after you sign up. Not just the first time you sign up, every year on your anniversary. You get access to our premium diehard level content, which is by far the most important thing here, because Craig goes in there and does chats during games. I go in there, do private diehard Petey's Puck Talks. Leah's doing the private blog for diehards only. You get so much more of the PHNX hockey and Coyote content that you become accustomed to. You get more than that if you become a diehard. You get 20% off all merch. You get 20% off all of our events. Hockey events are coming soon. And aside from that, you get to join the PHNX community. And I think that's incredibly important, what this community has done.
Yeah, that's an underrated
in the
benefit
state of Arizona.
It
It's
really
true.
is an underrated benefit. Yeah.
And you can see that, and ask our diehards. Look, we supported their causes. We've gone to their events, and not touting the PHNX banner, but we went there as part of the community, and we support each other on and off of the show. And it's really, really true. So I encourage people to go to gophnx.com and become a diehard today. Craig, what do you have coming up for diehards and for others?
Well, the mailbag just published today, Petey. So you can go in and read my 55 question mailbag for diehards only. There's great questions in there. I also,
how many pages?
55 questions, because I'm limiting
Lord.
people to one question now. Sorry, everyone, for that, but you can see how unruly it might get otherwise. But there is a picture of bunnies in the mailbag as well. I should point that out. So,
well, that's worth
feel
the
better.
trip alone. Well, and then I've got some special stuff coming up. I am headed right from this show. I'm heading down to the Mullet. I should probably clean up a little first because I can't wear this. I'm heading to the Mullet. It's semifinal night at Mullet Arena tonight for the Arizona State High School Hockey Tournament. The quarterfinals are over, and it's officially time for the semifinals, and they are tonight at Mullet Arena. The first game is at 5:40. Mountain Ridge faces off against Notre Dame Prep, and at 7:20, the number 1 Centennial faces off against number 5 Pinnacle. Two great games, one price, 2 games, $10 gets you in the door. You get to see both those games, and you get to see the ASU ACHA Division I team take on Grand Canyon for that same $10 ticket. It's going to be a lot of fun. The excitement is growing. These games have been fantastic so far. I will be there tonight, so do that. And then if you can't make it, make sure you go to YouTube and watch the Asha YouTube channel. I will be doing, along with the play-by-play voice of Asha, Dylan Pescator tomorrow. We're doing a show previewing the state championship tomorrow. So look for that on audio, wherever you get your podcasts. Craig, anything else you got today?
just want to answer Nicholas's question in the chat. Can a Native American group buy a sports team? Of course, it's certainly a possibility. And listen, I'm not aware of any current conversations with the Salt River group, but we do know, and I have reported before, that there's a plot of land on the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community land ready to go. It's zoned already.
Ready to go.
Put shovels in the ground.
No vote.
So,
No
yes,
vote.
They could own a team, and that to me, that's like a fascinating story if that ever came to fruition. But again, I don't know if the Morello group is going to get this done or not. I don't want to jump to that quite yet until we've heard that there's no possibility of securing this land.
Yeah, one of the things you've heard rumored with that group, Craig, all the way along is that land is ready and you can build. And that's one big advantage. But the other part of it is they want to own the team. And they're not willing to, hey, Morello can't go build there. Like that's not an option. Like Morello's
he
not
can't do what he wants to do there. So that's a problem. Yeah.
So that's really limiting there. That only can happen
if they're the owners. Yeah.
Yeah, they own the team.
Yeah.
So if you want to find that out, make sure you stay tuned to Craig S. Morgan and follow him on Twitter, or jump in and be a diehard, because if it breaks, it's going to break with Craig Morgan for sure. So follow his Twitter at Craig S. Morgan. Follow me at S. Peters Hockey. Follow Danielle behind the Mac at Abracad Danielle. Follow the show at PHNX_Coyotes. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave us a like. Join up and subscribe to the PHNX YouTube channel, and you don't miss any of the fantastic content that PHNX spits out, whether it's the YouTube shorts, whether it's these live shows, or whether it's the post-game shows. Craig, we won't be back until when? Tomorrow? Good Lord. It's our last. Is this the last one without Leah?
It is. And it's a fun game. I want to prime people for this, what's coming tomorrow.
Okay. It's
a game. And we're going to play it with you. You need to be in the chat in order to play this game. And it's called Trolling the NHL.
Whoa.
Basically, I'm going to give you the answer, and you have to give me the question.
Oh,
and I'm not even saying there are wrong questions.
That's kind of like Jeopardy.
I just want creative questions. I'll have my own, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. So again, I give you the answer in Trolling the NHL. You give me the question. Stay tuned for that on Friday.
Well, before we leave, Craig, because I don't like to prepare for anything. Do I have to do anything, or I don't have to prep much?
I mean, I'll write the entire script as usual,
Cool.
Petey. So you
Fantastic, Craig. Love you, buddy. Well, that's it for today from the PHNX Coyotes podcast. Can't wait to see you again tomorrow, where you go to play Trolling the NHL with Craig S. Morgan. This is Petey for Craig and Danielle and Leah in Toronto. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.